that is increasingly permeating our digital landscape. The pervasive spread of fake news on social media platforms. As we delve into this inquiry, it is essential to underscore the critical implications that misinformation has on public discourse, democratic processes, and societal cohesion. Social media has transformed how we communicate and access information. It provides unprecedented opportunities for dialogue and engagement, allowing voices from all walks of life to be heard. Yet, the same platform has become a fertile ground for the rapid dissemination of falsehoods and misleading narratives. The consequences of such misinformation are profound, influencing everything from public health decisions to electoral outcomes and undermining trust in our institutions and each other. As lawmakers, our role is not only to understand the scope and nature of this phenomenon, but also to consider our responsibility in creating a framework that protects the integrity of information while respecting the fundamental principles of free speech. We must tread carefully, ensuring that our legislative responses do not inadvertently stifle legitimate discourse upon the rights of individuals. This inquiry seeks to eliminate the dynamics at play between social media, fake news, and the public.
May mga vlogger ho bang nakapunta, mga didishit? Mga didishit na vlogger?
Stakeholders, and the public at large, examining the efficacy of existing regulations, the accountability of social media platforms, and the potential for new legislative measures to combat misinformation. We must ask ourselves, what constitutes fake news? How can we differentiate between misinformation and legitimate debate? What role should media companies play in monitoring and curbing the spread of false information? And crucially, how can we empower the public to critically engage with information they encounter online? Together, let us strive to find solutions that not only address the challenges posed by fake news, but also foster a vibrant, informed, and responsible digital citizenship. Our discussions today and in the days to come will shape the path forward in this vital area, and I encourage you to contribute your insights and perspectives in this hearing. Thank you and good morning to everyone.
The next to deliver his opening remarks is the Chairman on Committee of Public Information and Communication Technology. Committee on Public Information, chaired by Congressman Chairman Joe Aquino. Now you're in.
Shout out, Isidorante.
Chair, good morning to all of you. Let me thank our colleagues, resource persons, and everyone in attendance today as we try to understand and address the rampant spread of disinformation on social media. In today's digital era, its speed and impact are unprecedented, which compels us to address this head-on. Intentionally misleading information poses significant risk to our society, undermining public trust, threatening public safety, and influencing public opinion. We share a collective responsibility to address this challenge effectively. As I understand, we have representatives from different sectors, and our goal is to strengthen collaboration and explore approaches to counter disinformation. Each of you bring unique expertise and insights. We highly encourage all our resource persons to actively participate in our committee meetings and to exercise their freedom of speech. of expression and of the press with diligence and integrity. As we engage in meaningful discussions, let us uphold the highest moral and ethical standards, recognizing that all freedoms and rights come with the responsibility to use them wisely. Together, let us foster a respectful and productive dialogue that contributes to inform policy making and the public good. With that in mind, I look forward to a constructive discussion with all of you. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you so much, Co-Chair Jobo Aquino. Now, the Chair would like to recognize one of the authors of House Resolution number 2147, Senior Deputy Speaker Don Gonzales. Now, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Dan, Chairman Johnny, Chairman Joboy, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning to all of us. It is my privilege to sponsor House Resolution number 286, which calls for a joint inquiry in aid of legislation on the rampant posting of false and malicious content on social media platforms, while safeguarding freedom of speech and ensuring digital safety. Social media bridges gaps. Pinag-uugnay nito ang mga tao, bumubuo ito ng mga komunidad, nagpapalawak ng mga kamalayan at nagsusulong ng pagbabahagi ng kaalaman. According to online article by Data Reportal, the Philippines was home to 86.75 million social media users in January 2024. Equating to 73.4% of the total population. At sabi naman ng Foundation for Media Alternatives, ang Facebook ay ang pinakamura at pinakamadaling ma-access dahil ang ilang mga network ay inaalok ito ng libre bilang bahagi ng kanilang data plan. Ngunit, sa kabila ng napakaraming benepisyong kaakibat nito, social media can also be used as a conduit of inappropriate content. We all experience browsing our social media platforms, and more often, we come across racist, sexist, homophobic, religious, and political-based hate contents. Ang mga mapanirang nilalaman na ito ay naglalagay sa panganib sa kaligtasan ng publiko sa pamamagitan ng maling impormasyon, online harassment, mga panlilinlang at iba pang anyo ng cyberbullying. We affirm that instrumental role of social media in today's day and age, but there is an overwhelming need to address harmful content and at the same time uphold constitutional freedoms, particularly the freedom of speech and expression, which are considered cornerstones of our democracy. House Resolution number 286 proposes for the development of an improved transparency and accountability mechanisms for social media platforms. Most especially, it calls for an enhanced content moderation, reporting systems, and safeguards against misuse of algorithms. Additionally, digital literacy needs to be prioritized to help our fellow Filipinos discern credible information. Likewise, the resolution will also review Republic Act number 10175 or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012 to address the challenges posed by emerging technologies and harmful online content. To effectively address and promote digital safety, a multi-stakeholder approach must be carried out. Social media companies, cybersecurity experts, and legal professionals must come together to craft an effective and double legislation, by working together, we can ensure a safer digital landscape while preserving democratic values. Iniikayat ko po ang aking mga kapwa mambabatas at lahat ng ating mga panauhin na suportahan ang resolusyon ito upang matiyak ang kaligtasan ng ating digital space. Let us reconfigure our social media platforms with meaningful discourse, innovation, and empowerment rather than a breeding ground for deception of harm. Takal po salamat, payapak at po kay Katap. Good morning to all. Maraming salamat.
To deliver the next opening remarks, the one who deliver is privilege speeches, two privilege speeches in the plenary on December 4 and 16, 2024. Chairman Robert A. Barbers, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is very short, Mr. Chairman. As the proponent of the privilege speech that was delivered last year, with respect to the issues in the social media, allow this representation to deliver a very short opening remark, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga, mga kasamahan, honorable colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are gathered here today not to silence voices, suppress free speech, or curtail the constitutional right to freedom of expression. Instead, we are here to draw the line between responsible discourse and the deliberate, systematic abuse of digital platforms to spread lies, destroy reputations, and manipulate public perception. This hearing seeks to establish a regulatory framework for social media similar to how the Kapisanan ng mga Broadcasters sa Pilipinas or the KBP regulates television and radio broadcasters, and how the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines or the NUJP upholds ethical standards for print media. Our goal is to develop a code of conduct for content creators, ensuring accountability and ethical responsibility in this rapidly evolving digital space. While we uphold the constitutional right to freedom of speech, we must also recognize the urgent need for regulation to prevent the misuse of digital platforms. The lack of oversight has allowed bloggers and online influencers to freely spread harmful narratives without fact-checking or ethical accountability. To address this, social media platforms like TikTok and Facebook must be treated as legitimate businesses requiring a franchise or accreditation system. By holding these platforms accountable for monitoring and removing defamatory content, we can foster a safer and more responsible digital environment. This measure will not only encourage ethical content creation, but also curb the spread of libelous and misleading information. Just as traditional media operates under legal and ethical standards, bloggers and online influencers must also be subject to similar regulations to prevent the reckless dissemination of falsehoods. In recent years, we have witnessed the alarming rise of trolls, bloggers, and malicious online actors who, under the guise of exercising free speech, systematically spread fake news and engage in character assassination. These individuals and groups, operating with seeming impunity, have poisoned public discourse and in many instances tarnished the reputation of those who dare challenge their narratives. Despite the existence of laws such as the Cyber
Lahat ba naka-attend?
Act,
Mga vlogger?
Filipinos remain vulnerable to online deception, harassment, and digital attacks that threaten not only individual lives but also the integrity of our democracy. The reality is that these network of trolls are not simply expressing opinions. They are engaged in a well-orchestrated, well-funded campaign to spread disinformation, manipulate public perception, and destabilize institutions. The sources of funding for these operations remain in the shadows, possibly linked to illicit activities such as POGO operations or criminal syndicates. These financial resources are weaponized to create chaos, erode trust in government, undermine the media, and weaken our democratic foundations. Ironically, but not surprisingly, none of these actors speak out against China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea, proving our suspicion of illegal foreign funding. Let us be clear, this is no longer a mere issue of online criticism. What we are facing is a calculated effort to deceive, defame, and discredit those who seek to uphold the truth. These trolls are mercenaries of disinformation, paid to disrupt, confuse, and divide. Their mission is to drown out facts, distort the truth, and silence those who speak out against corruption and injustice. We too have not been spared. As public servants, we have been personally targeted by these malicious actors. Myself, my colleagues, and even the President. We accept criticism when it pertains to our official duties. But it is evident that these attacks go beyond public accountability. Their true intent is to discredit us before the electorate and the people we serve through personal and baseless attacks. The Supreme Court in Labargan versus People of the Philippines, GR number 246824, citing the Kev Jr. versus People in GR number 206015, ruled that, and I quote, offensive imputations against public officers do not constitute defamation if these relate to their discharge of official duties unless the prosecution proves actual malice. Defamatory utterances are malicious when made with knowledge that they were false or with reckless disregard as to its falsity, unquote. But this issue is bigger than any individual case, Mr. Chairman. This is about every Filipino who has been a victim of online harassment, cyber libel, and digital deception. If we continue to ignore this growing problem, we are failing the people we have sworn to protect. Social media should never be a tool for personal attacks or harassments or the destruction of reputations. Those who exploit these platforms to spread black propaganda, lies, and harm others must be held accountable. We have also received reports of bloggers soliciting donations under the pretense of funding their content, only to be involved in scams and online fraud. All this must stop, Mr. Chair. Today, we commit ourselves to finding solutions. We will explore ways to protect the public from the dangers of fake news and disinformation while ensuring that our digital spaces remain safe, ethical, and credible for future generations. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That was 10 minutes. I thought 9 minutes only. It was short. Anyway, the next item of our agenda is the acknowledgements of the resource persons who are present today. Thank you for coming over. And the COMSEC is hereby directed to acknowledge those personalities. And to those who will not be acknowledged, please approach po yung ating mic and ask to be recognized by the chair. Thank you so much. COMSEC, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning again. The following resource persons are present from the Department of Information and Communications Technology, Undersecretary Jeffrey, END, Ms. Christine Apopre, Ms. Michelle Pagalilawan, Mr. Renato Del Rosario, and Attorney Don Josef Tiansay. From the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center, Undersecretary Alexander K. Ramos, Attorney Alvin Navarro, and Ms. Christine Jane Flores. From the Department of Justice, Office of Cybercrime, Attorney Rodan Parocha, Secretary Ivan Uy. Apologies, sir. From the Department of Justice, Attorney Rodan Parocha of the DOJ Office of Cybercrime, with Head Agent Ina Marie Feliz Protasio Ladislao and State Counsel Attorney Christian Bautista. From the National Bureau of Investigation, Attorney Van Homer Anglubeg. From the National Telecommunications Commission, Attorney Andres Castelar Jr. From the Philippine National Police, Police Brigadier General Bernard Yang of the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group, with Colonel Columbo Aberia of the ACG, Police Lieutenant Colonel Anacleto Deliva of the PNP Legal Service, Colonel Nova De Castro Aglipay, the Chief of the Legal Affairs Division of the ACG, and from the University of the Philippines, Associate Dean for the College of Media Communication, Dr. Rachel E. Can. From the Center for Policy and Executive Development of the UP, Dr. Enrico Basilio. And Ms. Angela Chavez, also from CPED. Online, we have Attorney Michael Chu of the UP College of Law. And online, we also have Dr. Jonathan Corpus Ong of Global Digital Media and the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. From the Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas, Attorney Rudolph Holarbal. From Vera Files, Ms. Ellen Tordesillas, President and Co-Founder. Mr. Chair, from the social media personalities present that we invited 40 plus, sir, with us today are Attorney Rico Tomotorco, Ms. Maria Lourdes Tiquia of Publicus Asia, and Mr. Mark Louis Gamboa. That's all, Your Honor, for now. Thank you.
Okay,
Additional resource person, sir, from Press 1, Mr. Felipe Ipe Salvosa, Editor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, just a clarification from ComSec. Out of the 41 social media personalities, only 3 have attended.
Yes, Mr. Chair, some of them sent excuse letters via email.
yes, we have received of a different communication coming from the different resource persons, including the platforms like TikTok, YouTube, Google, and Facebook, Meta, Facebook, and to some personalities who have written us an excuse letter. They want to see or to acknowledge these excuse letters. Siguro isisay natin, no, para at least maging fair naman po doon sa mga resource persons who have attended while others have not. So, ito po yung mga excuse na galing kay Crisette Chu. I think, this is reference to your invitation to join inquiry. After careful consideration, I would like to respectfully turn down your invitation due to these following reasons. There are so many reasons, and maybe I'll be giving this to the members para for their perusal afterwards, para makita natin what action to be taken. Also from Aaron Peña, meron din po siyang excuse letter. Yes, Mr. kay Mike Anthony Lopez, just received today. I think this is also an excuse letter. Kay June Abines, After having a discussion with my lawyers, I regret to inform you that I won't be attending the hearing today because the objective of the hearing is an attempt to curtail the people's right to expression. Okay, from Richard Mata. Thank you for the invitation. I just received this yesterday, just a day before the event, because my lawyer was advised not to attend. The late invitation plus the unclear purpose of the event. We support the freedom of speech. We also support it. From Elizabeth Joy Cruz, same excuse, meron the excuse. Kay Attorney Trixie Cruz Angeles, I respectfully decline this invitation as I question the legality of the inquiry as well as the proposed legislation for being violative of the constitutional guarantee of free speech. From Ethel Garcia, decline as well. From Maui Spencer, out of the country. From Sean Wayne, long excuse. And sa TikTok, YouTube, and Meta. So I think the members have to decide on the other members who have not given us any excuse letter for the advertising of the resource person.
Mr. Chair.
Congressman Marcoleta and then Congressman Abante.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Judging from the title of the resolution before us, is it correct to assume that this hearing is only limited to social media platforms?
No, of course not.
Because the way I see it, it only addresses the problems, alleged problems encountered against bloggers.
No, Chairman, Congressman Marcoleta. That's the reason why we have invited as well the government agencies and also the academe and other media outlets who have parameters on.
But we have not invited members of the mainstream media, Mr. Chair.
We did.
And
That's
what
the
was
reason why
what was the
we're
reason?
asking for the excuse letter as well because a while ago the COMSEC have acknowledged the persons of the resource persons who have been invited.
Did we invite, Mr. Chair, Philippine Inquirer and Philippine
COMSEC, can you please reply to the query of the good gentleman from Sagi Party List?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Philippine Daily Inquirer was not invited, Mr. Chair.
How about social media? How about some other major media outlets?
Philippine Star, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, KBP was invited, kapisanan ng mga broadcasters sa
And the president of
Pilipinas.
the CBP, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did that satisfy the query of Congressman Marcoleta?
Because I think, Mr. Chair, even the social, not only the social media are supposed to be invited, but also the mainstream media. I am personally victimized by these two popular newspapers' broadsheets. May I cite a particular example just to dramatize, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Sir
Kaya
General.
importante lang sana, gusto ko rin sila marinig ko ng dito.
What's the point of order? So what's the point of order?
We're still in checking all the invitations that was sent to all the invitees. At the same time, Mr. Chairman, some of those invitees are not present. And with regards to the query being made by Congressman Coleta, I do believe that he has a basis for that. And since, Mr. Chairman, the COMSEC has confirmed that indeed Philippine Daily Inquirer and Philippine Star are not invited to today's hearing. Since Congressman Marcoleta is not a member of this committee, may I respectfully move, Mr. Chairman, that in the next hearing we will invite Philippine Daily Inquirer and Philippine Star to expedite discussion, Mr. Chairman. So move, Mr. Chairman.
May I know, Mr. Chair, why
By Congressman Paduano, and we have to tackle first the motion. Huh? We have to tackle the motion.
I second motion
And there's, that was duly seconded. Any objection? Hearing that the said motion is now approved. So, Congressman Marcoleta, your query is valid. Unfortunately, I I think it's the fault of the COMSEC for not inviting, because you have to consider as well that we have invited so many already for the bloggers. It was like 40, and we cannot accommodate everybody. And that's the reason why your query is so valid that we will be inviting them in the next hearing. And at the same time, having said that, your story about being victimized of those two broadsheet can be tackled in the next hearing. So the next item.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, you have the floor right now, Congressman.
I just would like to find out if Miss Elizabeth Joey Cruz, aka Joey DeVere, Fivri, was invited.
Congressman,
If he was invited, then
I would like a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
what's the point of order?
Once again, Mr. Chairman, the floor is still with Congressman Marcoleta, and is she okay na po ba? Congressman Marcoleta, with regards to the query that I am supposed to invite Philippine Daily Inquirer and Philippine Star.
Yes, approved. Now, actually, I have already taken action.
Yeah, I know. You have the floor still with Congressman Marcoleta, and I asked personally Congressman Marcoleta to the chair if he is satisfied with the motion that I made, Mr. Chairman. And after that, siguro, let's proceed with another member of the House of this committee.
Congressman Marcoleta, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I still have to include another aspect of inquiry. Kasi hindi lamang po yung social media at saka yung mainstream media. I was also personally victimized by certain survey firms. Nagsasurvey po sila. For example po, yung SWS, kailangan sabihin ko na po. Nag-survey po sila ng third quarter survey last year. And they listed 40 names, senatorial preferences. Nandito po sa akin, ibibigay ko po yung kopya po, reference ng ating committee. There are 40 names mentioned and indicated in that list. Ito po, Mr. Chair. Gusto ko lamang po ma-emphasize na dito sa 40 senatorial balls po na kanilang ginamit dito sa survey na to, meron pong 6 na relatively unknown. Babasahin ko po ang pangalan: Adonis Jerome, Andamo Jocelyn, Arambolo Ronel, Doringo Mimi, Loranda Muri, Danilo Ramos. Meron po naman 7 na sikat, Mr. Chair, pero hindi naman nagpahayag po ng pagtakbo bilang senador. Andiyan na po si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, dating Senador Franklin Trilon, dating Senador Richard Gordon, Harry Roque, dating Vice Presidente Robredo Maria Leonor, at saka po yung ating Secretary of Defense, Gilbert Chodoro. Pero po malinaw dito, Mr. Chair, hindi po nila ako nilagay dito sa 40. Pero no pong yung outcome po ito ipalabas nila, number 36 po ako. Paano po mangyayari na ako po magiging number 36, hindi naman po kasali rito? Ito po yung klase ng mga manipulative surveys na pinaniniwalaan po ng mga tao. Sana po hindi na lang nila ako sinama sapagkat wala naman ako rito. Sino po ba si Adonis Jerome, Andamo Jocelyn, Arambulo Ronel, Doringo Mimi, Loranda Modi, Mr. Pong Barbers, may kilala ka ba rito? Bakit naman po, hindi ko naman po pinagpipilitan na isama nila ako rito. Ang problema, hindi po ako kasama, Mr. Chair, pero nilagay po nila ako doon sa resulta, number 36 ako. Hindi naman po tatama ito. Ito po yung gusto natin i-address lahat. Hindi lamang po social media.
We understand that your predicament,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Congressman Marcoleta.
Ibigay ko po yung
The
reference.
presentation also doesn't believe that because on my own assumption, nasa top 5 ka. So, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Joseph, kidding aside. No, kidding aside. We have to tackle that issue as well, that being espoused by Congressman Marcoleta. So we will be inviting over in the next hearing, what survey firm is that? SWS and the Power Station. Alam mo yan?
Ito lang muna yung nakita ko.
Yes.
Saka yung Manila Broadcasting Corporation, NBC.
NBC, because in the House resolution itself, the House resolution number 2147, it clearly states that
Social media lang.
Yeah.
Ganun.
Kaya yun lang yung topic natin.
but it was no. Congressman Barbers, you have delivered in your privilege speech a wide, comprehensive approach on this matter. And I think I went over the survey firm. Is also correct? Yeah, maybe we are tackling not only the House Resolution number 2147, we're also tackling two privileged speeches that was delivered by you. So I think may basis po lang kay Congressman Marcoleta. Okay, and at the same time, so, Mr. Chair, noted po yung kay Congressman Marcoleta. Now you are recognized.
My query is if we have invited a certain Elizabeth Cruz, no, aka Joey Di Fibre, Mr. Chair, if we have invited her and she has an excuse letter, may I know what was the excuse, Mr. Chairman?
Consent, please answer the query of Congressman Abante. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Elizabeth Joy Cruz was invited and she sent an excuse letter via email.
Ano po yung kanya excuse letter? Ano yung dahilan?
One moment, sir. I'll get it from the chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Comsec, can you kindly also try to tell us those resource persons who have not attended this committee hearing? Yung may mga excuse letter, okay yun. But those who have not reply to our request to be present at today's hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
particularly first, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Congressman Abante.
particularly I am referring to AKA Jody Vivre sapagkat matindi yung kanyang mga sinabi dito. Gusto ko talagang makita siya at makausap sapagkat dito minura niya ako. Ang sabi niya, anay kabubuhan sa kwad. Kayang kuryente sa'yo. Bakit yung vacuum? Hindi ko alam yung vacuum. Ba't mo nasa
Congressman Abante.
lang. Tuloy ko lang buta.
Mr. Chairman, Congressman, don't be so personal. Let's be more comprehensive on this approach.
Binabasa ko lang po. Binabasa ko lang
Sige, go ahead. I'll give you
Pangalawa, November 13, 2024, nagmura na naman siya. Hindi ko na babanggitin yung mura niya. Tinatanong kung anong legislation ginawa niyo in relation to this. BS, ano ba yung BS? BS inquiry, sasagot ka. Swelduhan ka ng taxpayers, gago. November 3, 2024, si Benny Abante at si Romel Marbil ay mga protektor ng illegal na droga dahil bilang pinalabas na hindi ito ganun kasama. Tapos sabing ganyan, si Dan Fernandez and H. Barber's survey are depressing. Alam na nila na matatalo sila sa eleksyon. So what is the hearing for? Smoke screen for the discount. Tinabi ko ito sapagkat matindi po itong mga akusasyon na ibinigay nitong gusto ko nila magmura Hindi na ako pupumura-mura. Kailangan po, itong mga to, ang tatapang nila Ang tatapang sa pagmumura, nang wala tayong kalaban-laban. Ngayon, pag kaharap dito, hindi makaharap dito. Mga takuti pala yung mga yan
Please hold your fire, please. On the process of admission of ano pa lang muna tayo, Congressman Abante, we can tackle that on the interpellation.
Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang pong bagitin itong kanya excuse letter. O nakalagay dito, after meaningful consultation with my lawyers, kumain pa na abogado. I have decided to respectfully decline. Respectfully? Minumura tayo, respectfully? Ha? To share my knowledge on matters. Hindi knowledge ang kailangan natin. Oo. As the lawyers, kung libelous yung ginawa niyo, o iskander, no ha? O nakalagay, I would like to categorically state that I am neither paid by POGO operators. Hindi na pinag-uusapan natin yung mga sinabi niya. O, tapos respectfully, Elizabeth Joey Cruz, nakikinig po sa ating ngayon, nanonood na. Umarap ka dito, kumatapang ka. Hirap sa iyo, nagmumura ka. Nang dyan na wala akong kalaban-laban. Umarap ka dito. Dito. Namo.
Chairman, wait. Quiet, please observe, refrain from laughing or whatever expression you wanted to, please observe, decency and, of course,
Chair, I move that
with
it's right now.
all due respect, with Congressman Abante, I feel your sentiment, I feel your sentiment, but we are in the process of finding out the, yung pong implementation of the 10175. And I respect your freedom of expression. But what I'm trying to tell you is to refrain from the fire that you wanted to express. But for now, nandun pa lang po tayo sa administrative matter, and we wanted to finish that. And then we will be discussing, or we will be approving the ground rules. Wala pa po yung ground rules, and kaya nga po, yung sana yung kay Chairman Abante, papatabihan sa ground rules. Anyway, having said that, siguro we'll proceed to the next item.
Mr. Chair,
to approve.
So that we can have an orderly hearing, we must first approve the ground rules. I believe that the COMSEC has already distributed copies of the ground rules.
Naloka na! Eto na!
So therefore, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the ground rules.
Yes, there's a motion to approve the ground rules. And I believe that the members of this committee have already received the, yung pong ground rules natin, and you have already read it. So, siguro, I need a second motion for this. And second motion again. Second, then, any objection? The said motion is now approved. Hindi ko basahin. So the next item of our agenda is for all the...
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Congressman Zamora.
I would like to reiterate my earlier motion to strike out the expletive that was mentioned by my idol, Representative Abante. Earlier, second motion.
Mr. Chair, the motion, I object because it was not expletive. Sinabi ko lang, namo. That can mean anything. That expression.
Hearing the show.
If that is the...
Yeah, it was seconded, Mr. Chairman. And the objection with Congressman Abante, it's up to the members if they will vote for it, for the objection with Chairman Abante.
1 minute suspension. Hearing is you. So there's a motion to strike out the word that was delivered by Congressman Abante, and this was duly seconded. Any objection? That motion is approved.
Mr. Chair, I would like to manifest because it was the emotion made by she's just like a daughter to me because her father is a very good friend of mine. So I would like to withdraw my objection, although it is not actually an expletive. But I'm withdrawing it for the sake of the motion, Mr. Chair.
So the next item of our agenda is the administering the oath of resource persons. Those who have been invited to attend this committee hearing, please stand up, and the COMSEC is hereby directed to administer the oath of the resource persons.
May we request all the resource persons invited to stand. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this inquiry? Thank you. Please take your seat.
Mr. Chair, once again, we would like to have an orderly proceedings of the hearings. So therefore, we have some reminders to the members because after this we will now proceed to the deliberation and discussion. Please be reminded that pursuant to our ground rules, House members shall register with the committee secretary and shall be recognized on a first to register basis. Members shall be given 10 minutes each for their interpellation, excluding the answers of the resource persons. No member, except the chairpersons or the presiding officer and the senior deputy speaker, shall be allowed to speak or make interjections during the course of the interpellation of a member unless and until recognized by the lead chairperson or the presiding officer. And lastly, we enjoin everyone to observe proper decorum and basic courtesy in our proceedings. Please address your questions to the co-chairs and wait to be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Co-Chair Bimendal. So, muna tapos na. The next is Chairman Aquino for the discussion proper. Please discuss it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the permission of my co-chairs, I would like to propose that we first hear from the academe, then government agencies and independent media organizations to give us a situationer on the social media landscape. Each presenter shall have 10 minutes. Thank you.
So the proposed flow of discussion, una po yung academe, si Dr. Jonathan Ong, then academe muna, then government agencies, then the independent media organization. This will be the flow of our discussion. But for the meantime, going back to the administrative matter, Congressman Chairman Chairman Paduano, have something to say? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a matter of procedure, Mr. Chairman. Under protocol of every committee hearing, Mr. Chairman, all resource person being invited in every hearing and absent should have an excuse letter or explanation. And if that excuse letter is valid and acceptable to the committee members, so we will just invite them to the next hearing. But for all those resource persons with an excuse letter or without an excuse letter, they should be invited through a show cause order for the next hearing, Mr. Chairman. So that's a matter of protocol and procedural in every committee hearing, Mr. Chairman. That's why I want to go back to the invited guest that was mentioned by Congressman Abante. And it's up to Congressman Abante that what will be the next step for this committee for his or her invitation in the next hearing. I just want to make it clear, Mr. Chairman, that all invitees who are not present in today's hearing the committee should have a proper disposition with regards to their invitation, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what's the pleasure of the body?
Mr. Chair, in relation to what Congressman Paduano said, may I know if we're going to invite again those social bloggers?
What's the pleasure of the body for those who have been invited and have not written us any excuse letter?
Well, to Mr. Chair, to me, Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
let us invite them again. If they don't show up or make an excuse letter, then I'll make a motion that we issue a show cause order on them.
So there's a manifestation by Congressman Abante that those who have not written any excuse letter will be invited again in the next hearing. Actually, hindi ito motion, but it's a procedure that is being governed as, no? So, doon sa mga resource persons na hindi po nakarating, na hindi napadala ng mga excuse letter, you are being invited again in the next hearing. And for those who have written an excuse letter, what's the pleasure of this body on the excuse letters that they have sent us? Because they have written as letters.
Mr. Chairman, kasi po, in our procedure, depende po sa content ng excuse letter if it is valid or not. That's why I suggest, kaya lang, tumatagal tayo dito, I suggest sana na we will discuss each and every excuse letter. Kasi magkaiba po reason at saka content ng letter. Correct. Diba? For example, in the case of the person that was mentioned by Congressman Abante, ganon po yung sagot niya. Shall we invite the babae ba? Shall we invite her again? Or issue a show cause order? For me, Mr. Chairman, that is offensive and we should also issue show cause order for her. And we will not just invite her in the next hearing, we will issue a show cause order for that person. Mr. Chairman.
According sa, okay, thank you so much for that, Congressman Duano. According sa Section 9 of our rules, witnesses will be granted more than two postponements of appearance before the committee without justifiable cause. So we can issue a show cause order because wala silang justifiable reason.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Congressman Ako, please.
we must distinguish the resource person who was invited but did not offer any excuse from the resource person who was invited but came up with a letter excuse. So why should we treat them the same? According to our protocols, as we have done in the previous committee hearings, those invited persons who did not offer any excuse, the next order is for them, for the committee to issue a show cause order to explain why. And for those people who offered an excuse for their absence, it's up for the committee to determine whether the excuse is acceptable or not. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I think we have so many excuse letters that were given to us by the ComSec.
Mr. Chair, particularly
Yes.
the excuse order, the excuse letter of this Miss Elizabeth Joey Cruz. She said, I know that the time of the committee is precious and I am coming from deep concern on prudent utilization of public resources. Mr. Chair, this is contemptible. This is not respecting this committee. How dare she will say prudent utilization of public resources? I therefore make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we issue a show cause order on Miss Elizabeth Joey Cruz. Now, I move therefore, Mr. Chair.
So there's a motion to issue a show cause order to that resource person. What's the name? Elizabeth Cruz. And there was a second motion. Any objection? Hearing na, this motion is now approved. Yun po yung merong excuse letter. And there's still a lot. Like, for example, yung kay Sean Wayne, kay Maui Spencer, kay Eden Garcia. But you have to read the content of their excuse letter. Like, for example, one of these, you want to move on this, or you want to discuss this on a later part of the discussion? Or you want to have an omnibus motion with all of this, But there are excuse letters which are valid. Like, for example, this personality, nasa Singapore siya. So, katulad ito, out of the country, si Maui Spencer, for not being there in our country yet. Nasa Singapore siya for vacation. So, I think, excuse yung kanya, Attorney Biles, sige. After having discussion with my lawyer, isa-isa na natin ito kung gusto nyo. Okay, after having discussion with my lawyers, I regret to inform you that I won't be attending the hearing today because the objective of the hearing is an attempt to curtail the people's right to expression. So, kay Juna Bines, with that issues letter, Mr. Chairman, I found it not valid and I moved to issue as your cause order for that Juna Bines. So, there's a moment to issue as your cause order to this business person. Any second motion? Second, there's a second motion and objection. Hearing none, the said motion is now approved.
Okay, Mr. Chair, if I may, go ahead. Mr. Chair, para lang doon sa mga nanonood, ito pong hearing na ito ay hindi para kitilin o isuppress yung freedom of speech nila. Wala ho kaming ganong layunin. Ang layunin po natin dito ay gawan ng polisiya ang paggamit ng social media platforms. Dapat po meron tayong disiplina, meron tayong code of conduct, meron tayong ethics sa paggamit nitong social media. Hindi yung pagbukas mo ng social media, magmumura ka. Meron dyan, nagso-social media, nagbablog, walang ginawa araw-araw kundi manawagan ng kaguluhan sa ating bansa, nananawagan ng people power, nananawagan ng kudeta. Yung ba ay tama, Mr. Chair? Ang punto lang natin dito is magkaroon tayo ng ganitong regulasyon o regulatory policy para kagaya po ng mga broadcasters, meron po silang KBP, kagaya po ng mga manunulat sa dyaryo, meron po silang NUJP. They're all bound by rules and regulations. So, in this social media, the use of social media platforms, unfortunately, wala po tayong ganyan sa ngayon. At hindi po pwede na gawin pong rason ng mga yan na meron tayong freedom at kinekartel natin yung freedom of speech nila. Huwag niyo pong lukuhin ng taong bayan. Wala akong curtailment o suppression ng freedom of speech dito. Kaya nga kayo inimbita rito eh. Diba? Kaya kayo inimbita dito para magpagpahayag din kayo. Hindi po ba yan ay tamang freedom of expression? Ba't ngayon nagpapadala kayo ng mga sulat na hindi kayo pwede kasi hindi kayo naniniwala sa layunin ng pagdinig na ito? Wag po kayo magtago sa mga ganyan. Ang tatapang nyo, sabi nga ni Congressman Abante, in the advent of social media, suddenly Filipinos become political analysts. They become journalists. They become experts. We need your wisdom. Diba? Kayo, ang gagaling nyo magtuligsa eh. Ito nyo gawin para nang sa ganun, makagawa tayo ng isang polisiya na hindi po maabuso ito. Ngayon, nandiyan kayo sa social media. Kung mag-retire kayo, hindi na kayo nagpa-vlog. Paano kaya yung mga susunod na mga vloggers? Yun lamang po ang layunin natin dito. Kaya huwag kayong magdahilan na hindi kayo nagpupunta rito dahil hindi kayo pupunta dito kasi hindi kayo naniniwala sa layunin ng investigasyon na ito. We want to craft a policy, a remedial legislation so that there will be discipline and code of ethics in the practice and use of our social media platform, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Sabi na lang naman pala to. So, tapusin na natin, maikli na lang to. Ito may excuse letter din si Mark Anthony de la Cruz Lopez. I was supposed to stand in front of this committee today in what has been asserted as inquiry on fake news peddlers, narco-bloggers, and Pogo-funded bloggers in aid of legislation. I would have loved to really open up and tell you my story on how I evolved from being an ordinary citizen. Mahaba po siya, mga 5 pages siya. Pero tinitingnan ko po, you see Mr. Fernandez and Barbers, I reiterate that I am a citizen of the Republic and I actually understand that the premise of your so-called inquiry is without basis, nor cannot understand on solid legal ground. I therefore invoke my rights as provided for in the Constitution and decline your invitation. So, mahaba po yung kanyang letter and I cannot understand fully, but this is the content of the letter. So, what's the pleasure of the body?
Mr. Chairman, once again, the letter is sent to this committee is not valid. I move to issue your consent for that invited guest.
Okay, there's a motion to issue a order to Mr. Mark Anthony Lopez. Any second the motion?
Second.
Any objection? Yes, the said motion is not approved. Okay, ito naman galing kay Attorney Trixie Angeles. I respectfully decline this invitation as I question the legality of the inquiry as well as the proposed legislation for being violative of the constitutional guarantee of free speech. Is she a lawyer? Is she a lawyer? Yes, Attorney Trixie, a lawyer. I think, attorney. So what's the pleasure of the body?
Mr. Chairman, I might have two motions, Mr. Chairman. First motion, Mr. Chairman, is to issue a show cause order to Attorney
Everyone. Trixie Angeles.
Attorney Angeles.
Show cause ninyo.
That is my first motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, about the
Second motion.
duly seconded, any objection, hearing that the said motion is now approved.
My second motion, Mr. Chairman, is for the legal department of this House to study if ever there is a violation because he is an officer of the court. And he should respect the constitutional duty of Congress. And question of legality, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully move that we will consult the legal department of this House for a possible disbarment case against Attorney Trixie, apelido. Yes po. So po, Mr. Chairman,
The seconded by the red pen. Oh, no, it's a motion. So there's a motion. Second. Wait. Your motion is to ask the legal
the
department.
legal department for a possible disbursement case against Attorney Trixie Angeles.
So there's a motion cited by Congressman Paduano. Any second the motion? Duly seconded. Any objection? Hearing none, the said motion is now approved. About Richard Mata, thank you for your invitation. I just received this yesterday, just a day before the event. I consulted my lawyer and was advised not to attend. The late invitation plus the clear purpose of the event, we support the freedom of speech. So, what's the pleasure of this body?
The same thing with the others, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion to
I think we have
issue court show cause order na.
There's a motion. Any second motion? Duly second, any objection? Hearing none, the said motion is now approved. About the Aaron Peña. While I initially wanted to accept, I would like to respectfully decline your invitation to share my knowledge on matters that were raised by Representative Ace Barbers in his privilege speeches. Last year, after a series of consultation with my lawyers, I would like to categorically state that I'm neither paid by POG operators nor drug lords, and so my knowledge is not used for the goal of the joint committee. Same thing. Motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to issue a show cause order for
There's a motion to issue a show cause order to this person. Any second the motion? Second the motion. Duly seconded. And objection, hearing none, the said motion is approved. And Cassette Chu. This is reference to your invitation to the joint inquiry congressional hearing on social media. After careful consideration, I would like to respectfully turn down your invitation due to these following reasons. Mahaba po yung reasons. 4 pages. And sa nababasa ko ba, ang tema niya ay justification of the laws protecting the rights. So I think, what's the pleasure again? I think it's not about health reasons or whatever. It's also justifying not to be present on today's hearing.
once again, Mr. Chairman, I move to issue a show cause order.
There's a motion to show cause order to Ms. Cassette Chu, and this was duly seconded. Hearing no objection, the said motion is now approved. About the Sean Wayne, it's a long excuse as well. No health issues and not of the country. So I think same. No, it's not out of the country. So, nag-decline lang siya. And this goes also to Ms. Ethel Garcia, para yun ang point natin. So, dalawa po sila, same naman ang reason almost.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we issue a show cause order for both the invited senators mentioned by the chairman. So,
There's a motion to Issue show cause order to Ms. Ethel Garcia and Sean Wayne. Duly seconded. Any objection? Hearing none, the said motion is now approved. So now we will be,
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, just one last,
11:30 na. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, the committee has received a letter coming from the Philippine Entertainment Portal, and they're requesting for the presence to be invited to the next hearing, Mr. Chairman, so that they can also give some inputs with regards to the House resolution that we're tackling in today's hearing, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
so we will be inviting them over as well. There's a motion, duly seconded by Congressman Luiso. Any objection? The said motion, on the said motion, hearing no objection, the said motion is now approved. Okay, punta na po tayo sa flow ng presentation natin. Kanina, sinabi po natin yung academe po mauna will be recognizing via Zoom si Dr. Rachel Khan, Associate Dean, UP College of Media and Communication. Pakinggan po natin yung mga taga-academe natin. Go ahead,
Kung mauna to, kasi mag-out siya.
Okay, so unahin po muna natin si Dr. Jonathan Ong, University of Massachusetts. Nandiyan po ba siya? Via Zoom as well. So via Zoom. Sige, go ahead. Sige, Dr. Ong, you are now recognized. Sige, Dr.
In global context, it's important to conduct comparative research with our neighboring countries kung ano-ano na nga ba yung mga effective solutions based on other countries' direct experiences, including with legislation. Pag-usapan po natin kung paano maaaring suportahan at posibleng pondohan ng gobyerno ang iba't ibang mga interventions. Third, it's important that we share lessons of what has worked and what hasn't in the Philippine context, and what risks that researchers, journalists, and other organizations in this space have been facing. Fourth, I also wanted to share the vision of Sigla Research Center and myself as a sociologist in terms of tech justice here in the Philippine context. So my colleagues advocate for tech justice solutions that are sustainable, long-term, and aligned with our country's cultural context. So first, I wanted to share this free and open access resource for policymakers and also educators curated by Sigla Research Center. You can visit siglaresearchcenter.org and check out this research archive. Ito pong research archive collects many professors' previously published research and policy papers on disinformation in influence operations. So na-publish na po siya sa iba't ibang bansa, pero na-collecto po siya dito sa research archive. Altogether, in reviewing all of them, you can learn about trends across 3 election cycles from 2016, 2019, and 2022 elections. Most recently, we have one paper that also summarizes trends across all 3. Some of you might know that as a sociologist, my specific methodology has also been focused on understanding the business of disinformation for hire. Ito po yung paano magpatakbo ng digital operations during elections and yung mga kampanya, at kung ano-ano yung mga klase ng operators na kumikita ng pera from disinformation campaigning. We also include papers in this archive led by other academics such as Fatima Gao, who discussed influencer marketing and paano kumikita ng pera ang mga influencers bawat halalan using advertising technology of social media platforms. Finally, we have collected research about counter-disinformation actors in the Philippines and kung ano-ano yung mga interventions na na-implement dito sa ating bansa. So, baka may mga nakakaalam na po sa inyo itong research paper published noong 2018 entitled Architects of Network Disinformation. I was asked to share this with you again today. This research was co-authored with Jason Cabañas, and this analyzed the behind-the-scenes work of disinformation campaigns, how they are organized, the different kinds of workers involved, who sets the agenda, and who executes the campaign. So our research involved interviews with politicians, political operators, at various levels of the hierarchy. Kasama na dito mga advertising and PR specialists, influencers, fake account operators, and digital volunteers. This academic paper has also been translated as a podcast produced by Puma Podcast, where we interviewed disinformation whistleblowers. So ito po yung mga operators na nagtrabaho sa mga political campaigns, and you can hear from them directly. Maririnig nyo how they were recruited into their work at paano sila kumikita ng pera. 3 of our findings: political trolls are not tech-brainwashed, uneducated, poor voters in rural areas. Some of them are from middle-class families, and they see political trolling as just a side gig, a hustle to make ends meet. There are different kinds of workers, and we need to hold accountable the people at the top, yung mga elites in advertising and PR industries. Ibig sabihin, sana wag lang po natin habulin yung mga low-level workers, yung mga bots, but pati na rin yung mga mastermind. Pero mahirap pong gawin itong kind of research. Ang naging pangalan po sa methodology ng research na ito ay Disinformation for Hire, yung pag-aaral ng paano nagiging hanap buhay, kumbaga, ang paggawa ng fake news sa industriya. So, ang napag-aralan namin ay ito. Investigative research into the business of disinformation is risky and costly. It requires financial investment and also legal support. So, yung mga researchers and journalists who do this are also threatened when doing this kind of risky research. This is difficult to execute because it requires the cooperation of whistleblowers. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang ito monitoring kung ano yung nakikita natin sa social media. Kailangan may ma-invite tayo na magpa-interview sa mga researcher ng mga tao na insiders talaga sa industriya. This means that we need civil society to support worker power movement building in the digital and creative industries. Kailangan ma-encourage natin sila at magkaisa, mapag-usapan ng ethics or lack thereof sa industriya. So, may iba't ibang interventions na nasubukan na. So, for example, codes of ethics have been attempted by legal advocacy groups like Lente, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Unfortunately, these attempts have had very little buy-in from advertising and PR agencies themselves because it threatens their ways of working and their bottom line. Thus, it has become easier to just hunt and fact-check low-level trolls and bots rather than to hold accountable itong mga masterminds. So, pag-usapan din natin ng foreign interference. And it's important that we review prior research. Of course, it's important to invest in cybersecurity monitoring of foreign interference. Ito po yung pag-track ng mga bot accounts operated overseas and how they interfere on wedge issues, such as how Chinese accounts were discovered by Facebook's own investigation as pushing CCP propaganda around the West Philippine Sea. However, we also need to fund local investigative research that can probe the transnational labor networks to expose itong mga financial transactions during campaigns, especially during elections. So, for example, during the 2019 elections, we found at least one example of a Chinese mainland business tycoon funding a local politician's digital operations for a mayoral race. Dahil may personal business interests siya sa lugar na iyon at naisip niya na matulungan itong local politician. This could also count as foreign interference and ways of circumventing campaign finance regulation in the country. So, kasama na din sa pag-discuss ng foreign interference, we need to understand how it can come from many different countries, including from our allied countries, such as the United States. Reuters journalists last year exposed the Pentagon as seeding anti-vaccine memes in our country at the height of COVID. We need to pursue unanswered questions from this expose, including identifying possible local Filipino collaborators who participated in the translation and dissemination of this US-funded disinformation campaign. So I'm almost at the very end of this presentation. I just wanted to highlight research from other neighboring countries about the risks of top-down government legislation against fake news. So it's important to recognize that many human rights organizations and international legal scholars have raised alarm about the global trend of anti-fake news laws being used as quote-unquote weaponized lawfare. Ang sabi po ng maraming eksperto ay ang mga batas ukol sa fake news ay karanasan nagagamit in an inconsistent and arbitrary fashion, often used by incumbent politicians and governments to target activists, critics, journalists, and opposition parties. So kahit mabuti ang intensyon ng batas, kung hindi specific at transparent ang batas at ang mga implementers na ito, top-down regulation can actually do more harm than good. Kaya nga, kahit UNESCO, nakaaway siya ng mga civil society organizations around Southeast Asia in 2023. So nagalit ang mga civil society organizations sa UNESCO for trying to encourage governments to have control of social media content. They have three objections. In effect, this would be rubber stamping local overregulation, it would embolden authoritarian regulators, and it would incentivize platforms to comply with illegitimate government requests. So these objections are not new. Back in 2018, the Center for the Protection of Journalists spoke out against how journalists have been imprisoned on charges of fake news spreading. It's important to note that we should consider different kinds of legislation, hindi lang po imprisonment and fines penalizing social media users. Pwede din po ay legislation focused at big tech corporation na focus siya on content corrections. So mandating big tech to implement content corrections, or number two, administrative compliance measures for participating in transparency mechanisms with independent researchers. So I'm almost at the final slide, and so now, given the risks of top-down legislation that might do harm than good, yung advocacy ng Sigla Research Center is kailangan civil society-driven ang lunas sa fake news, and kailangan angkop sa ating konteksto. We need to have full awareness of risks of regulatory capture and overreach. So these are four very practical solutions that would be more civil society driven rather than top-down and overreaching. First is to broaden the focus beyond content takedowns. Government should be supporting independent research and civil society to mitigate local businesses of misinformation for hire. So kahit meron pong examples of foreign interference, mas typical pa rin itong local misinformation. Number two, you can support whole of society coalitions where academics, journalists, legal experts, librarians, educators, and human rights agencies apply diverse methodologies to promote a healthy public sphere. Hindi lang po isa yung methodology, but kailangan iba't ibang sektor ng ating lipunan ay mag-collaborate. Number three, you can target social media platforms. You can pressure them for transparency initiatives and external audits of their policies as well as their algorithms. These can be reviewed by independent, non-partisan researchers and civil society organizations. Number four, and this is recognizing the broader context of an inevitable contraction of funding because of U.S. foreign aid being contracting as well as funding from big tech corporations for fact-checking also being halted. You can augment the funding of civil society who are the front line for fighting disinformation. And I just wanted to shout out some of those civil society organizations that you can be supporting and the different methodologies that they have been using to fight fake news. We argue that we need to support all of these methodologies and support ways that they can all work collaboratively rather than work in silos. So thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jonathan Corpus Ong. for that informative presentation. Maybe later the members of this committee will be asking questions, but for the meantime, we'll be proceeding to the next resource person who will be presenting as well. So, University of the Philippines, Dr. Rachel Ikan, Associate Dean College of Mass Communication. You are now recognized, ma'am. By, present siya. O sige, ma'am, you are now recognized, please.
Honorable Chair, distinguished members of Congress, ladies and gentlemen, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Correct ko lang po yung sa designation, tapos na po yung term ko as Associate Dean. I am a Professor of Journalism at the UP College of Mass Communication. I am also a co-founder of Check.ph, isa pong collaborative coalition ng mga fact-checkers dito sa Pilipinas, where we strive to cite or help the public distinguish disinformation narratives. If you allow me, I have slides po for the presentation, if it can be flashed.
Sige, go ahead, ma'am.
Kailangan ko po yung slides kasi yun yung visual, yung unang visual po na
Yeah, technical, please. Ayan na, ma'am.
Ayan, salamat. Next slide, please. It's very important for us to be able to distinguish no, na ang mali. However, ibang usapan to sa disinformation. Yung mga or the certain beliefs na within society. Ang malinformation naman po ay sadyang nananakit po ng tao. It usually attacks reputations through disinformation. No? So, nakikita na, for example, ang deepfake ay example po ng isang malinformation dahil you are already impersonating a real person and putting words in that person's mouth. So, ito po, we have to distinguish the intent, no, in tackling the area of information disorder. Next slide, please. So I thought I would just summarize what I have to say in ABCD. Ang abakada po ng disinformation. Ang una po ay manipulative actors. They are people with clear groups, institutions with clear intention to disrupt democratic process or the information ecosystem. The second is deceptive behaviors, mga tactic po. And then I'll go through it given the limited time one by one. Can we have the next slide? So I'll tackle it more systematically. So una po, manipulative actors. So as Jonathan had said earlier, dun sa nakasite po sa kanyang study Architects of Network Disinformation, ito po ay mga institutions, mga tao, mga groups na nananadyang nagkakalat ng disinformation. I listed here some examples of these manipulative actors, such as yung tinatawag ni or na-label ni Craig Silverman, isang journalist who focuses on disinformation also in the US, na mga black PR agencies. These are boutique PR agencies that really focus on, sometimes they operate during elections to either attack or to attack certain individuals during the election period, or feed disinformation in other forms, like in environment issues, no, health issues, mga ganyan. So sadya silang nagta-target ng audiences. Many of them are not necessarily members or officially recognized public relation firms in the country, but are also ad hoc. And then po yung mga POGO na or community-based fake account operators. No, so ang danger po ng isa pang danger ng POGO ay they have the machinery and the equipment to operate not just online gaming, but they can easily convert to scamming and other forms of harmful activity. And then of course, apart from them, you also have community-based fake account operators. Ito yung mga grupong na-hire, usually kasama rin sila ng mga black PR na siniset up para mag-attack ng or kalat ng disinformation. Then of course, you have the hired trolls, yung mga tao nila, hired influencers, na this can be individuals who are selling their platform, no, to the highest bidder, to be able to share whatever information their financier wants to give out. Now, whether it's just for propaganda sake or it's disinformation. And then of course, yung grassroots supporters, ito po yung hindi ito bayad, ito yung mga na-involve lang sa disinformation dahil masyado silang, for example, loyal sa isang personality. So, kahit anong sabihin itong influencer na to, i-echo nila. Sort of like blind loyalty. So, many of them are victims also of disinformation. Unfortunately, kahit na biktima sila rin yung nagpapakalat ng maling impormasyon. Alright, so the commonality here is that they are not operating in and for themselves, but are guns for hire, where the weapon is disinformation and the aim is the manipulation of the public sphere. Sometimes po, next slide please, there is some times when it's state-sponsored disinformation. As we can see here, I have two studies that were published by the Deutsche Welles about Russian disinformation targeting Germany, and published also by the BBC News of Chinese-led state propaganda and disinformation. Next po, letter B, deceptive behavior. I'm narrowing this down to what I think is the most threatening. First is the inauthentic coordinated behavior. Ito po, as Jonathan had also mentioned earlier, pwede po nating hanapan ng paraan para
Mga kababayan, live tayo mamaya. Babay muna, wala namang vlogger na nagpunta.
actually
Salamat po.
finance this. This is the multiple